Well, it seems like if you're a gay fucking...
There's a Trane split system up there above the ceiling tiles. It's directly above a vent, a sprinkler head, and a light. It's a good thing nobody has to go up there regularly and replace a return air filter. So why do I hate mini splits? This is a VRF orange juice flavored mini split system. And down here it's got what looks like a normal line set. It's a liquid line and a suction line on a mini split. Can you believe that? It has two heads, each with their own thermostat, mounted crooked as a dog's leg. And if you look up here above this one, you'll see a T, not a branch box. These heads have the expansion valve in the head. And that's a liquid line. What's wrong with that then? Why would that be an issue? Well, look at all this shit. Got a nice big control board. And behind it, another huge board. This has like 2 square feet of circuit board in it. All these sensors and various other components hooked up. And we'll look down here. We got our reversing valve. We got a gigantic receiver all the way from top to bottom. Here's 4 heat exchangers piped in like some kind of series parallel array. A solenoid valve, lots and lots of components. Everything you could possibly put in an AC unit except a filter dryer. They don't use filter dryers in mini splits. Even the big giant VRF, no filter dryer. How stupid can you be? You know what else doesn't use a filter dryer? Window ACs. Only other unit held together with these screws made out of this metal painted with this paint. So now that I've tightened these connections that the electricians neglected to tighten, I'm supposed to put power to it and leave it for 12 hours because there's no crankcase heater and it pulses power through the windings of the compressor to warm it up. So it's first thing in the morning. I'm here to do a startup. I cannot start it up today. That's a high side service port. Isn't that crazy? 600 psi. Been like that for 2 weeks. This vacuum pump hasn't had its oil changed in years. That's what the oil looks like. I wonder if it can pull a vacuum. That's pretty good. Ultimate vacuum, 25 microns. So I guess it's not doing ultimate vacuum, but it's doing sufficient vacuum. They're gonna put AstroTurf in here. Somebody could be throwing a football around. I wonder if they plan on protecting the thermostats. I especially like the way they routed all the fire stuff. All these red wires you see strung about, those are the fire stuff. Running fire alarms and smoke detectors, and none of this matters. Just tape it anywhere, it doesn't matter. So the first of the 3 steps in a triple evacuation is to pull the pressure down to no more than 1500 microns. He's supposed to break it with nitrogen. The second vacuum is supposed to be below 1000. Then you're supposed to break with nitrogen again. So the last vacuum is supposed to be below 500 microns. This unit has been operating for a total of about 6 hours. This is the way it came from the factory. Really, I mean, you can see right over there behind this wire is the place where it's supposed to be screwed down. That's been a few hours. And we're sitting at 87 microns. What's it stay at if I close the valve on the vacuum tank? So that would be done. You know, this will be ready to start up, except it's been less than 12 hours since I turned the power on. That's an oil separator. That's what that thing is. Discharge gas goes up this line and goes in here at an angle, spirals around. Eventually the gas goes out the top. The oil collects at the bottom where it goes through that capillary tube and into the suction line back to the compressor. One day later, now the compressor should be warm enough to start this mini split. It comes with this paper that's utterly meaningless engineering bullshit. And there's this one. It's before test run, you know, what you gotta do before you start it, and I just wanted to show you. 500 volt mega ohmmeter between the power supply and ground. A whole bunch of bullshit about that, and then we got the insulation resistance of the compressor, and you know, this whole 12-hour warm-up thing, and it's just a bunch of engineering crap. They want you to start it up in a laboratory setting, basically, which is very unrealistic. We're just going to turn it on and add 8.44 pounds of refrigerant. First, we're going to make sure the wiring is hooked up properly, and that's not a very good sign. What do you know? He didn't hook up the condensate pump power connector. I've got to go through and connect the condensate pumps first, then I can turn these on. L1's terminal block broke tightening the screw. That's very common on a mini split. Their build quality is very poor. It says on this little chart, this is going to pull about half an amp. Well, thank fuck for that. I was expecting it to be like a 30 or 40 amp. Gotta go through these settings that I've never gone through. Don't know. Well, that's really lame. Now we wait. It's blowing. It says specifically in the instructions not to turn both on at the same time. So we're going to turn them both on at the same time. It's blowing too. It literally says in their little information that the compressor will not run for 3 minutes. But it runs. It's been under 3 minutes. The fans are like occasionally twitching. What do you think about that? Is that cool? We're about 3 pounds in and the fans are actually turning now. I got my ball valve closed, but it leaks by slightly. So it's kind of like a quick charge. Budget edition. Ice on the liquid line. What do you think about that? The compressor just spun down a little bit. So what's going on here is there's a liquid to suction heat exchanger, and I've got the suction line freezing cold. So it's literally cooling the liquid down below freezing. Is that cool? Our heat exchanger back there, and it's got ice on it. Maybe that'll come up. Seems awfully low. Mini splits, man. They're always like this. And then these absurdly low suction pressures. It'll eventually come up. They both seem to be cooling okay. And they move a lot of air. These are commercial mini splits. They're like medium splits, you know? Because they're still a mini split. Like, they're not mini, I guess. Medium split. Starting to cool off there. You know, they put the ceiling tiles up yesterday. They waited till today. They've been doing it in the air conditioning. Starting to ramp up compressor speed. Hasn't raised the suction pressure yet. Stands to reason it's going to start feeding more. When they called for uninsulated liquid line, Seems like they didn't count on it being cold. Maybe it won't sweat. The ceiling tile dudes put the hole in the ceiling tile like a quarter of an inch too far to the right, and now my line set's crooked. The suction pressure is finally starting to creep up. It's almost hit freezing. Imagine that, it works. Almost seems like I'm unjustified in hating Minisplits as much as I do. What with their excellent build quality, choice of materials, quality terminal blocks, serviceability, sensible design features. At least give them this much, man. These fans are quiet. Even at full speed, they're quiet. They move the shit out of some air. It's got the room down to 69 degrees. There's ice on the suction line here. There's ice on the receiver right there. There's ice almost up to the compressor. Heat exchangers are cold, except the one on the left. The discharge line's nice and hot. So everything's good. It's just a mini split, so, it's garbage. But other than that, we're straight. Never mind the routing of the wires that are slightly inconvenient. So I've spent a little time on something else, and it's still 68. I'm gonna just turn that up to 68. Really? I think they've condensated enough by now to have activated the drain pumps. I don't see any water pouring all over the place. So that's a pretty good sign. It's now been an hour or something. There's no water running down the walls. The liquid lines are still cold. Oh well. So I'm gonna start up the heat. This unit over here is heating just fine. But this one is decided it wants to do whatever the hell it pleases. We got an obvious 3 blinks code. Obvious except that there's no legend anywhere inside the unit that tells us what 3 blinks actually means. So we're just kind of on our own as far as that's concerned. Google says 3 flashes means pressure switch. Well, that's pretty likely. If I jiggle this little connector, the fan runs. So what's going on here then? This little connector's loose? Looking probably. Look at that. Really? I took my little baby screwdriver and I squeezed these together. See how they're bent now? So, maybe they'll make a good connection? Let's find out.
I wish to work like you.
Disconnect 24 volts from the heat board. Little LED go out. Put it back. Let's let the board go through its little sequence of 95 relay clicks. Hey, look, and I can move it around all I want. It doesn't turn off. So problem solved, but that's fucking pathetic that I had to do that. Both of these units ship right from the factory with obvious loose connections. And this ain't just an isolated case. This happens all the time. What the fuck is going on with Trane quality control right now? It's hard to start a Trane. Fully custom cover for the line set of the mini splits. Now it doesn't matter if it's crooked. We're up here in the ceiling, that easy to reach Trane unit from the beginning of the video. I'm wondering why it ain't heating, and figure it out. Nice. Also, there is no service disconnect. Go straight over to that box, no disconnect.